I was 23, standing in a crowded kitchen, when a woman I barely knew hugged me goodbye, and I felt something I could not explain. We had spoken for minutes. She was leaving. I was near the door. A hug was the polite end to a non-conversation. But something happened I did not understand for another 5 years. She pressed her chest against mine fully. Her hands landed on my upper back, slid down to my waist. She breathed in, slow and deep, and held the hug to seconds longer than social convention demanded. Then she released, smiled, walked out. I stood there stunned. I never saw her again. But I thought about that hug for years. Not because I was obsessed with her, because I was obsessed with the gap between what I felt and what I could explain. Her body told me something her words never did. I had no idea how to read it, let alone respond. That night is why I started paying attention. Not to pick-up artistry, not to manipulation, to biology, to the language of touch that exists underneath every human interaction, invisible to men who never learned to listen. I was not naturally gifted at this. I hugged women the same way I hugged my grandmother: quick squeeze, 3 pats, release, escape. Safe, polite, forgettable. For years, I could not figure out why nothing shifted. Why the women I liked drifted toward men who were not smarter, not better looking. Men who simply touched differently. I thought it was unfair, shallow. I did not yet understand that touch is not shallow. Touch is the original language. Words were invented 6,000 years ago. Skin has been speaking for 500 million. So I started studying neuroscience, pathology, anthropology. Slowly, through trial and error, I began to understand what I had been missing. What I am about to tell you is not a system, not tricks. It is what I wish someone had explained to me when I was 23, standing in that kitchen, feeling something I could not name and watching it walk out the door. Here is the foundational truth. Touch is not neutral. Every point of skin contact carries intention. Every pressure change communicates. Every lingering second tells a story your conscious mind is not caught up to. The difference between comfort and chemistry is not in what you say. It is in the microscopic adjustments of pressure, position, and timing during physical contact. Most men never understand this. We hug women the same way we hug our mothers, our brothers, our colleagues. The neuroscience is simple. Skin contacts skin, your brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. But here is what the research summaries do not tell you. The type of touch determines the type of bond. A handshake creates professional trust, but certain touch is specific, intentional, strategically placed to activate the limbic system in ways that bypass rational thought entirely. The hypothalamus lights up. The ventral tegmental area floods with dopamine. The amygdala begins associating your presence with reward, with safety, with something she cannot name, but definitely feels. This is not manipulation. This is biology. Manipulation is making someone feel something they do not feel. Most men are so afraid of being seen as creepy they overcorrect into invisible. They touch like they are apologizing for existing, hesitate at every threshold. Hesitation is not respect. Hesitation is fear. Fear is not attractive in any species. First touch, the lower back anchor for years. I hug like this, arms around the upper back, hands landing near the shoulder blades. The safe zone, the friendship zone, where nothing interesting ever occurs. Then I watch couples who could not keep their hands off each other. Notice where his hands are. Lower back, right at the curve where her spine begins its descent. More sensitive, more intimate, directly connected to nerve pathways the conscious mind does not like to acknowledge. When you place your hand on her lower back during a hug, you are not just touching her, you are claiming space. The pressure matters. Not aggressive, not tentative, firm, present, grounded. Palm flat against the small of her back, fingers spread slightly, thumb resting naturally. This says, I know what I am doing. She feels the difference immediately. Second touch, the shoulder blade draw. I discovered this by accident. I was hugging a woman I had been seeing. Nothing serious, but in that embrace, my hands moved, not deliberately. They traveled from her lower back, upward along her sides, light enough she barely registered it. firm enough that every nerve ending along the route activated. By the time my hands reached her shoulder blades, something had changed. I pulled inward, not yanking, drawing. There is a massive psychological difference between pulling and drawing. Pull someone, they resist. Draw them, they melt. This inward pressure eliminates the empty space, creates full body contact instead of the awkward frame hug that communicates nothing but polite distance. Her chest pressed against mine. Her breathing changed, slower, deeper. The next day, she called me, not to hang out, to ask if I was okay, because she felt something shift and did not know what it meant. That was the moment I realized your hands can communicate what your mouth will never be brave enough to say. Third touch, the neck whisper. This separates boys from men. It requires boldness disguised as gentleness. As the hug continues, and this is a longer hug now, one hand travels from her back to the base of her neck, not gripping, not grabbing, resting. Fingers slide gently into her hair at the nape. Thumb settles softly against the side of her throat. Palm cradles the back of her skull. This is one of the most vulnerable positions a woman can be in. The neck contains the carotid artery, the jugular vein, all the vital structures that keep her alive. When she allows you to touch her there, when she does not pull away, does not tense up, she trusts you, not socially, biologically. Her limbic system has run its threat assessment and decided you are safe. But here is where it gets interesting. That same vulnerability, the thing that makes the neck a trust indicator, also makes it an arousal trigger. The nerves in the neck are hypersensitive. Skin is thinner. Proximity to the ear means every breath you take becomes tangible to her. When your hand settles at the base of her neck and your fingers rest gently in her hair, her breathing changes, slower, deeper. Her body is responding to yours in ways her conscious mind has not decided on yet. This is where most men panic. They feel the shift and abort. Pull back, make a joke. But tension is not the enemy. Sexual tension is the entire point. The men who can sit comfortably in the tension, who do not need to fill silence with words, who can simply be present, are the men she thinks about later. Fourth touch, the hip recognition. Hips do not lie. The positioning of her hips during a hug tells you everything about her attraction. If she is turned slightly away, hips angled, lower body barely making contact, she is not interested. But if her hips are square to yours, no gap, full frontal contact from chest to thighs, that is not politeness. That is a signal. As your hands rest on her lower back, let one hand drift slowly, casually to settle on her hip. Not her ass, not her thigh, her hip, right where the bone creates the curve, where her body transitions from waist to legs. If she is stiff, resistance, body language closed, stop. But if she is relaxed, pressed against you, arms wrapped fully and not in a hurry to let go, then your hand on her hip is not a violation. It is the next logical step, possessive without aggression, intimate without crossing lines. A statement, I see you as a woman, not as a friend. That clarity, masculine directness is what so many women are starving for. They are tired of men who treat every interaction like a negotiation. Your hand on her hip says, I am not ashamed of wanting you. Honesty is intoxicating. Fifth touch, the temporal stretch. A woman I was seeing once told me something I have never forgotten. We stood in her doorway. I was about to leave. We hugged. I held it for maybe 12 seconds, released. Walked to my car. The next week, she said, you have no idea how rare that is. Most men hug like they are trying to escape. Like physical contact is a transaction to complete so they can get to the next thing. You just stayed. She was not talking about technique. She was talking about presence. A 3-second hug is friendly. 7 seconds is intimate. 15 seconds is sexual. The temporal stretch is simple. Hold the hug longer than social convention dictates. Not awkwardly, not desperately, confidently. Do not release when she expects. Let the moment extend. Let her nervous system adjust to your presence. Around the 12-second mark, something interesting happens. She stops thinking about the hug and starts feeling it. Her analytical mind shuts off. Her body takes over. Oxytocin peaks. Cortisol drops. In that extended embrace, she begins to associate you with peace, with safety, with the kind of presence most men cannot provide because they are too busy rushing. You are not holding her because you want something. You are holding her because this moment, right here, is exactly where you want to be. The temporal stretch is proof of presence. Presence is the rarest gift you can give another human being. Sixth touch, the release linger. Most men blow it at the end. They do everything right. Lower back anchor, shoulder blade draw, neck whisper, hip recognition, temporal stretch. Then they release it quickly. Break contact. The moment ends abruptly and all that built tension dissipates into nothing. The release linger is the final piece. As you begin to let go, your hands do not leave her body immediately. They slide slowly down her back as you create distance, across her hips as you step away, along her arms until you are holding just her hands. This does two things. First, it extends the sensory experience. Her skin still registers your touch even as visual contact breaks. Second, it creates anticipation for the next time. Because if this hug felt like this, what would everything else feel like? The release linger is leaving her wanting more. Not through games, through mastery of escalation and de-escalation. You build the tension. You held it. Now you release it in a way that makes her chase the feeling. Epilogue. What I learned: I am not telling you this so you become someone who collects women. I am telling you this because I spent years confused, touching women the wrong way, communicating the opposite of what I felt, wondering why I kept getting friend-zoned by women who clearly liked me but never enough to cross into desire. I thought I was not attractive enough, not successful enough, not funny enough. The truth was simpler. I was not present enough, not grounded enough, not comfortable enough in my own skin to let my hands say what my mouth was too afraid to speak. The 6 touches are not a checklist. They are the vocabulary of a language hundreds of millions of years old. You do not need to be born knowing this language. I was not, but you need to decide. Keep operating in the dark, hoping things magically shift, or finally learn the language spoken for thousands of years, right beneath the surface of every ordinary moment, waiting for someone who knows how to read it. I was 23 when a woman hugged me goodbye and I felt something I could not explain. It took me 5 years to understand what happened. It took me another 3 to learn how to respond. I still think about that hug, not because I regret losing her, because it was the first time my body understood something my mind was not yet ready to accept. That touch was a message. I could not read it, but I learned. And if I can learn after years of awkward, forgettable, played hugs that communicated absolutely nothing, so can you. The question is not whether you are capable. The question is whether you are willing to stop apologizing for your own desire long enough to let your hands speak the truth.